Energylandia may have opened only 7 years ago in 2014, but this Polish theme park already boasts one of the largest ride lineups of any amusement park in the world. Energylandia currently has the second most roller coasters of any park with 18. Many of their early rides were minimally themed, off-the-shelf carnival rides or cloned coasters, but their most recent additions have been exceptional. The park has added a series of world-class coasters and complemented them with much improved theming. I spent 2.5 days at Energylandia, which was plenty of time for me to experience all their roller coasters and many of their notable non-coasters. So in this video, I will rank my top 15 favorite attractions at this park. Before delving into the list, I want to note a few rides and attractions I was unable to experience. For that reason, they will not appear in this countdown. I heard very good things about the Extreme Energylandia stunt show, but I skipped it due to crowds. This is the same reason I did not visit Energylandia's water park. Of the rides in the dry park, the only major ones I missed were the 2 River Rapids rides. I also want to note 3 rides that you may expect in this countdown, but they will not be there. I usually love dark rides, but Monster House is one of the worst I have ever ridden. This dark ride was an incoherent mess. All the figures were static, the sets were barren, and there were no sounds. This was worse than most carnival dark rides. Another ride that will not make this list is Tsunami Drop. I love drop towers, but this SBF Visa tower has to be one of the worst adult drop towers I have ever ridden if it wasn't the worst. It was extremely slow, and the drop had no power. I've been on kiddie drop towers that packed more of a punch. Lastly, you will not see the Viking roller coaster in this list. While it has a familiar spinning Wild Mouse layout, this one is rough and it has over-the-shoulder restraints, which is not an ideal combo. Kicking off the list of rides I enjoyed is number 15, Tidal Wave Twister. Part of the brand new Aqualantis expansion, this has the shortest cycle of any Zamperla disco coaster. This one only goes over the airtime hump once, presumably to reduce the cycle time and decrease wait times. That being said, the ride is fun while it lasts, between the faint weightlessness on the spikes and the whip spinning over the central hump. Number 14, Anaconda. This intimate shoot-the-chutes ride has an extended layout featuring 2 drops. There isn't anything to look at in the course, but the drops are zippy, and the splash wasn't quite as soaking as I expected. Honestly, this park's log flume gets you wetter. Number 13, Light Explorers. This is one of 2 Vekoma Junior boomerangs at this park. Also prior to the brand new Aqualantis area, this boomerang has a neat placement over the water. The coaster has an out and back layout, but the bunny hills are unfortunately too slow and drawn out to offer any airtime. However, the coaster is glass smooth, and the 2 spikes do offer some tummy tickling sensations on the descents. Number 12, Boomerang. This is the other Vekoma Junior boomerang. This one has a much more compact layout, and it features a few decently forceful turns as you wind around the station building. And like Light Explorers, this one has enjoyable spikes on both ends of the layout. Number 11, Speed. While Anaconda wasn't a soaker, Speed sure was. This intimate water coaster sends an absolute deluge into the boats on the final splashdown. It's comical how much water comes into the boat if it's fully loaded. The huge elevator lift offers a nice view of the park, and while the main drop is pretty shallow, it does build up a ton of speed. The rest of the coaster section is rather uneventful, and it just feels like filler as you build up anticipation to that final splash. Number 10, Space Gun. This SBF inverting pendulum ride offers the best hang time of any attraction at Energylandia. You get some mild hang time on the complete inversions, and amazing hang time when you stall upside down. Number 9, Apocalypto. This SBF topspin feels like a miniature version of Phantasialand's Talocan. You have some Mayan ruins around the attraction, and no shortage of fountains. However, the ride itself was a lot more compact than the Hoost topspins, and the forces were not as pronounced. This version didn't produce the powerful positive G's in the inversions, but it compensated by having a more chaotic program with more flips. The motion isn't quite as fluid as the Hoost versions with some bounces and jerks, but the ride is never uncomfortable unless you aren't a fan of hang time, because that happens quite a bit on this ride. Number 8, Dragon Roller Coaster. This Vekoma suspended coaster is a clone of Dollywood's Dragonflyer. This one has a similarly awesome start. This one has a great drop into a dragon-themed underwater tunnel, and then it rips through a shockingly forceful overbank turn that feels darn close to an inversion. The rest of the layout has some mild force on the remaining helixes and turns, and like all the new Vekomas, the coaster is glass smooth and super comfortable. Number 7. Roller Coaster Mayan. Speaking of smooth Vekomas, this SLC has improved track work and the new vest restraints. With headbanging eliminated, it is possible to appreciate the brisk pacing and snappy inversions on this compact inverted coaster. The tracking isn't flawless, as there's still some shuffling along the way, but this coaster is a fun and forceful ride that runs circles over the old SLCs. Back home in America, this is similar to the track work on the Great Nor'easter at Morey's Piers. Number 6. Aztec Swing. This SBF Visa Frisbee was much better than I expected. This ride ran a nice long program and was fairly forceful too. The downswings offered decent positive Gs, and then the max swings offered some good floater airtime. And there are plenty of max swings too, more than you get in most rides like this. Number 5. Space Booster. Energylandia's best flat ride is their Fabry Booster. As Energylandia has expanded into a larger thrill destination, this ride's low capacity has become more of an issue. But once you get on the ride, it is still a blast. This one only ran in one direction, but it ran that one direction for a fairly long time. I got the same flip each time over the top, but it's always a thrill to invert that high in the air, and the downswings delivered very strong, leg-numbing positive Gs. And when you wait for the other side to load, you get a beautiful aerial view of the park. Number 4. Formula. The first Vekoma Space Warp is a short but solid coaster. The ride starts with a decent launch before charging through a relatively forceful layout. The Immelman and low turns pull some good positive Gs, the airtime hills have some solid floater airtime, and the corkscrews are snappy with some laterals. This is one of the first new generation Vekomas, and I love how diverse this coaster's layout is while also being smooth. Number 3. Abyssus. The anchor of Aqualantis is the big brother to Formula. This Vekoma multi-launch coaster does a little bit of everything. The first half is the appetizer with the okay initial launch and decent floater airtime on the first few hills. After an unfortunately lackluster second launch that reminded me of the ones on the Mach coasters, Abyssus picks things up. The top hat does have a trim on it, but you still get some strong ejector airtime in the back car, and you really want to be in the back car for this ride. The second half has several airtime hills. You get floater airtime on most of them up front, but the back will get some ejector airtime on a few of them. Then you have a mix of moderately forceful and floaty inversions for variety, and the coaster should only improve in the future seasons once the theming is complete. While Abyssus may not have been as forceful as something like Lek Coaster, it is still very smooth and has a well-rounded and enjoyable layout. Number 2. Hyperion. Energylandia's first major custom coaster was this monstrous Intamin hypercoaster. This is Poland's tallest and fastest coaster, and it also is one of the best layouts in the world. It reminds me of Six Flags New England's Superman the Ride because it starts as an out and back coaster before transitioning into a twister. This coaster has some great airtime. The first drop and initial camelback offers some great and sustained ejector airtime. Then you have some smaller hills with shorter, more abrupt pops of airtime. You also have some forceful valleys and great laterals on the snappy turns. The one downside with this coaster is you have a really bad dead spot in the middle of the ride. The speed hill and camelback do nothing. However, the rest of the ride is near flawless between the forces, intensity, and smoothness. And coming in at number 1 is Zadra. The first ground-up RMC steel coaster is also Poland's best roller coaster. Zadra may be marketed as a wood coaster, but this is a record-breaking hybrid coaster with some of the best pacing of any ride. Zadra flies through its layout. The ride starts with an incredible first drop, surprise speed hill, and wild turnaround, before progressing through elements that rapidly get smaller and smaller. This keeps the ride's pace up until the very end, while also packing in a lot of intense elements. And those elements had the signature RMC ejector airtime and hang time. but it was often paired with laterals as well. And this also may be the company's best coaster for positive Gs, between the forces on that giant turnaround and the forceful low to the ground twists. Zadra is a masterpiece for reasons I go into in a separate review. So that is how I rank the top 15 rides and attractions at Energylandia, at least the ones I experienced. Based on the rate this park is expanding, this list will likely get outdated in a few years, but as of the end of the 2021 season, this is how I personally rank the park's attractions. What are your thoughts on this list, or any of the rides I mentioned? I would love to hear what you think about these down in the comments. If you enjoyed this countdown, I'd appreciate if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, since there will be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.